Hi, I'm Stephanie from SKGS Consulting Group, where we like to take gnarly, complicated marketing and business problems and then turn them into simple, unexpected solutions. So you're most likely here because you're about to go through one of our virtual workshops. If you're not and you just found this video, welcome, and I also hope you find it helpful. So don't TLDW this video because if you haven't used Miro before, this here is your best bet for a fundamental breakdown of how to use the tools and be a great participant at a workshop. I couldn't personally find a video that specifically kind of went over all these features in this one place, so that's why I had to create this video for you all. So let's start and talk about what we're going to go over today. So if you have or haven't been to an in-person workshop, let me tell you a little bit about it, but you're typically using a lot of sticky notes, you're doing a lot of interactive games and different things to keep you engaged and moving hard solutions down the path to something bigger. So Miro is a really cool tool that has made virtual workshopping a reality. So it's been really nice for us. So they have some really great features that we want to go over, but I really wanted to narrow it down, narrow the focus of the video down to you, the participants, and what you really need to know to get to be able to have a good session. So these are the features that I really want to focus on, which are sticky notes, mind mapping, frames, comments, and cards, so that this will make our workshop a lot better. So this is the way that, it looks in person, where it's kind of crazy and chaotic, but eventually it comes to a solution. So the Miro sticky notes in particular, this is one feature that we really need to focus on because it's how we're spending the bulk of our time. So in the session, what you need to know about sticky notes on Miro is that they're super easy. They're quick to customize. You can create them in bulk. You can do easily affinity grouping, and you can also connect them with lines. So it's really easy to do, and I'm just going to demonstrate here for you. So the good news about this is you kind of use, and I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but you'll see over here in the sidebar on the left that there's the sticky note option. And you just click it. And from there, you can pick any color sticky note you like. I like purple. That's my favorite color. So I'm just going to put that in there. I made one. I dragged it over, and I just am going to type right into it right there. So, and you can, the cool thing about this is like right now I have it on kind of a style where it's like that, but I can easily change it if you don't like that. You can change the color. You can add an emoji to it. You can add tags. Tags are really important possibly in the session where you might want to say that something is critical. Who knows? You might want to make something up, and you could say it's difficult networking challenge. You could even tag it as a person. You could put your own name in there so that people know it, but you'd probably want to pick a new color. Sorry. Let's pick the color yellow. So, well, I don't know why I didn't change it. But you can just add a lot of different things, a lot of tags. You can also add links. I think that's a really important feature to know about because you might be working with things that are outside of your current environment that you want to link to. I just linked to a website, but maybe it's an image or maybe it's an example of something. You can also bring those in here as well by uploading them. If you look here on the left as well, you can upload via URLs, or maybe you have something on your files that you want to go ahead and include. Maybe you did a quick sketch or something like that. And there are some simple sketching tools in here that you should know about, pens and lines and things like that. But in general, it's pretty simple stuff that you'd be doing here. So But that is the main thing that I wanted you to know about that. You could be adding a lot of different customization in the moment. The next thing I want you to know about is in a session, a lot of times what we are doing is actually including a lot of sticky notes. You're going to be creating, you're going to be brain dumping, brain writing, which means you're going to be adding as many thoughts as possible at one time. So they created this really cool function, which is called bulk creation. So again, if you go to that left-hand bar there and look for the sticky note, which is just the square with the little edge on it, you do bulk mode. And so what's cool here is you can just type, you know, right in there, you can type everything you need to know right there, and just quickly create a bunch of them. So when I click done, then it just kind of populates them on the board. I can make them bigger, smaller, very easily. I can drag the whole group together. I can change the color of them. Maybe I don't like this color because I'm really talking about a specific topic here and I want to resort them. So maybe I can click out of it and I'd say, you know, these two here, I'm going to drag and select those. Those two are about something else. They're about a different subject. So maybe this is a marketing problem and these three are a technology issue. So maybe that's what we call affinity grouping in these sessions. So one thing you might want to do too is maybe just a quick thing to do as you're grouping with your teammates is you might want to just label this and say this is a tech issues. Oops. And then over here you might want to group and say use kind of the same color and use them to say these are marketing issues. So a lot of times with the label, we'll just make those slightly bigger so that we kind of know that we've grouped these and bulked them together. You can then reselect those and you can group these objects. You can kind of say, okay, these are the ones that are, oops, I missed that one, but you can group those and kind of say, these are all the tech issues and just easily move them around. These are all the marketing issues. I don't think it's selected that one again. So that way, when you're moving stuff around the board, you've kind of all got them together. So those are important things for you to understand as you're creating bulk issues. Now I'm going to delete these because I want to show you a very cool function. So that would be if you were in the session and you were just wanting to type a bunch of them right there. And that's great. But sometimes what we're doing is maybe we're coming with information ahead of time, or maybe you just prefer to work in a spreadsheet. So data is a really great way to kind of do something here. So what I created here was just a list of some animals, because I have two little girls who obsess about animals. And so I just copied that by doing Command C, and now I'm back over into Miro and I am going to paste those. So I did a Command V there, and then I'm just gonna narrow this down a little bit, move them into there, and then I'm gonna zoom in. As you can see on the right-hand bottom bar there, I don't know if you're able to see my actual hand. And there's also on the left here, the select tool. So for me to move around, I need to move it back from a hand to the arrow. And the arrow, it just helps me select or write and actually type things. The hand helps me move around this because it's like this giant board that you're moving around all the time. So as you can see from the data that I pulled, it even understood that the title of that category is animals. So, you know, I can just easily make that bigger. So maybe I'm starting to look at these and I want to group them again by maybe mammals, all the mammals I'm going to put together, all the made up stuff I'm going to put together, all the, maybe all of these ocean animals together or fish. So anyway, you really can kind of simply group things as much as you want and then later label them however you want. So that's a really cool function and feature for using data from a spreadsheet. And actually, I'm going to give you even cooler information about that here in a minute, but I'm going to delete these again. and show you and talk to you about one more thing you should know about, which is that there is also a sticky captures feature on your phone or through the computer. And through the computer, it's through here. So you would select on the 3 dots here on the left-hand side, you would click that, and you see this thing called Stickies Capture. And there's a lot of different apps you can connect to as well. But the sticky capture is what I want you to look at. And I'm going to show you something from a workshop that I did a while ago. And it's just going to take all of those existing sticky notes that you hand wrote, and it's going to convert them automatically for us. So as you can see, it kind of already identified some of them. It doesn't know what it is, so you just delete those. For the other ones that it didn't find, you just kind of select it. If you wanted to go into it and make it more precise, you could, but you really don't need to. It typically can identify a lot of that stuff. And if it accidentally captures things you don't need, you just delete it. But I add it to the board. And as you can see, it just added everything for me right there. Now, why is this important? Maybe you're bringing some data from a previous session that you had internally, or maybe you are a person who just is a low fidelity person. You would rather handwrite all of your sticky notes yourself. You're whiteboarding it on your own wall at home. It's fine, because sometimes during these sessions, you are working on your own. So you may want to capture it like that, take a quick picture with your phone and the Miro app and upload it right there. So as you can see, that's really cool. It also already captured it again by colors. So if you were so inclined and you wanted to have everything together, some sticky note pads with different colors at home, you could do that. And look at that, you have everything already grouped together. So let's go to the next thing that I want to talk about here, which is affinity grouping, and then how you would connect those lines. So remember I said that sometimes when we're grouping things in sessions, we're going to call it affinity grouping, or we'll just call it grouping in general. But sometimes what we want to do is use a lot of data that's heavy and has a lot of information. So again, let's go back to that spreadsheet that I had. And this data is something that was compiled. This second column here is completely uncorrelated to the first. It's actually data that was compiled from a SWOT workshop where we did a SWOT analysis, and that particular category there was their strengths or their competitive advantages. So this client had a bunch of stuff. Here's the category. But what I want to do is not dig through all of that, and I want to be a little faster in compiling what is what. So I want to look through all of these tags here, and maybe I can quickly say, you know what? It looks like there's a lot of conversation about experts, expertise, reputation. So I'm going to search for expert. And sorry, I already had that typed in here, but you would type in expert, and then it pulls up all of the tags there that are for experts and expertise. So then I'm going to select all of those by clicking on the select all button here. And then as you can see, it already did it. Oops, sorry, I accidentally unselected it. So now they're all grouped together and I can just move them off to the side. And then maybe what I want to do with those is I want to change all of those to green. And now I know that all of these are for that particular subject. So what we're going to do is zoom in here. Again, I'm going to change this back to the hand so I can kind of move around the board. This will get easier as you're kind of doing it. And then I unselect it and move it back so that I can kind of lay them on top of each other, because sometimes you don't really need to be reading all of them for the long haul. We're just kind of summarizing when we're at this stage. And so maybe now I want to select all of these and group them. Well, now it's not showing me the grouping option, but here's what we're going to do. We're just going to move this. And so I'm going to show you how often on what we're doing is we're working in a board here. And we're gonna, like, this is a template that I might have you work in. So what I do is I would say, okay, all of these green ones here, I want to move them to this category. So we're just gonna make them a little smaller, and maybe this is now going to become the category. We'll rename it and we'll call this expertise. So that is affinity grouping. And more importantly, what I really wanted to show you was that search function, because it might be important as you are starting, you'll kind of break off into these smaller groups and you'll want to be able to categorize and group all these ideas that you have, because at first it's just, it'll seem like chaos. There's so much out there. Then eventually it'll get smaller and easier. The other thing I wanted to show you was connecting lines, because sometimes what we're doing is we're creating some sort of a, it's going to be maybe something more along the lines of a process, or maybe it's a comparison of some sort, or maybe there's dependencies on what you're doing here. So what I want to show you is, like, maybe we could create, for instance, like an A/B testing idea for an email campaign. So let's take a simple idea like, you know, email new customers. And what we're going to do now is kind of talk about A/B testing here. So we're going to do category A, we're going to do the headline. That'll be more time sensitive, a time sensitive headline. Oops. So then we will do a different one that is, maybe the B testing is going to be a more emotional message or headlined in that subject. And so this is, we're talking about subject lines or something like that. Well, now what we can do is just easily connect these as kind of like my A/B test. Sorry, I know there's a way to connect both of these. There we go. And I can also change the line. Maybe I want it to be more structured and like this. Maybe, and you can select all of them too and do that. Maybe what I want is a dotted line. Maybe I want to say, like, this is actually just a dotted line scenario. So it's kind of nice because you can create a lot of different ideas here where it's got some sort of hierarchy or structure of that you want to kind of annotate here. This is just a really cool function here with these tools. It's almost like drawing it. Frankly, if you like to draw yourself, you can do that too. You could maybe make circles, you could write your name, you could say, this is group A, this is group B. Sorry, I'm not very good at mouse pads, but there you go. So a lot of cool things you can do there. So mind mapping is something that I also want to talk to you about. And the reason is it's a little bit different. Sorry, I didn't mean to click on that. You can do it through there as well. It's a little bit of a different tool. I prefer using their template for a mind map. They have one, and I'm going to, actually, I'm going to use a different one. So I'm going to add the filled example just because it's easy to get in there and look at it a little more closely. So if you look at this mind map here, and this one, it's just easy. You can just tab and go to the next section really easily and just say, okay, now I'm going to add something here, and it's going to be, this is about availability. So I'll say after market hours or something like that. Let's pretend that this is a trading company. So after market hours, maybe it'll be business hours And I'm just hitting enter and tab, and that's how I'm clicking through. If I wanted to get deeper in any of these, you could also use your mouse and it would just get deeper, but it's really nice. Then you can also do this. You can just move things around. Maybe you're like, no, this needs to go over here. That needs to connect to there. You could add color, you can add links, all the same features that you can add to some of the other areas. But sometimes for quick development, especially with a team, you'll see multiple cursors at one time in one map, just kind of brainstorming and mind mapping a scenario. This would be great for maybe a campaign development. Maybe it's a scenario for how you want to build out a new product. It really, there's so many different ways to do this. It's a really fun tool. So another thing that I wanted to show you was creating frames. And right now, the reason that it looks like it's almost like a PowerPoint presentation is because what I've done is I've just created a frame. So maybe I was working on something and I've been, brainstorming here off on my own. And I wanted to just kind of work over here on these ideas, and I was adding some sticky notes, and I've kind of gone off and done this myself, or I was working with a team member or something like that. Well, the way to kind of set this up is you're going to add a frame to it. So you're just going to add that frame around it. And that way it's just been added. If you look here to the left, you can see that it's on there, and I can close and unclose that here at the bottom of the screen on the left-hand side. I can open and close this, but then when we get back to present, we'll have a frame to kind of go back to. So that's kind of an important thing to understand too, as you're kind of working through your session. And the last thing here on this comments part that I want to get to is that maybe it's important because you want to add a note here, and you can tag a user. So you could tag somebody on your team. Like I'm going to tag Jason Schrock, and I'm going to say, hey, I need your approval on this. He'll love that. And then I'll put a little smiley face and I'll send that to him. And so what happens is that because I've already connected us to a Slack line, it'll go to both his email, I believe, and also his Slack. So he'll be able to see that he needs to do that. He can come back and address it. He can reply back to me. He can mention someone else on this feed. He could change the color. Maybe I made it red and now he's like, you know what, it's good. It's good to go. It's green. I come back and I review and I'm like, okay, thanks. Thanks for helping me get this out the door. We'll start tomorrow. And then what I'll do is I'll send that, I'll unfollow this thread, and I can resolve it. So if you were doing something longer term, if we were building out stuff for the long haul, that's one way to do it. If you're also just asking for feedback in the moment, this is a great way to do it. So in general, I think that this is a cool tool to have right in the moment, where you can be notifying people that you have some question, or you're having somebody on your team and you want them to take a look at something that you're working on with them. We'll be in breakout sessions in Zoom, but you also have a way to kind of comment to each other, and we keep a thread of all of that information. So lastly here, I want to go over our cards. By the way, if you haven't set up your Slack to this Miro, you need to get the app through Miro and hook it up to your Slack if we're using your company Slack. So that's important for you to know and set up ahead of time. So when you're, all right, so now we're on cards. And the reason I want to go over cards is they're slightly different. They are sometimes used because they're a little bit more information heavy. So for me, it's probably less likely that we'll get to this in the first sessions that we do, but if we got more deep, eventually you want to kind of start creating more heavy information. So this is really good for project management, for task management as you get to that stage when you're getting kind of to the nitty gritty. So this is an example, and I just threw one in here, but if we were to, oops, sorry, I need to get out of comments here. Okay, so if I were to double click on this and then drop down this 3 thing, sorry, no, I'm sorry. I want to expand it and look at it. You can see that there's a lot more detail in here. So, you know, I just threw something in here, but this is a mission, vision, value, identity statement created that we did a while back. And so I just put these parameters in here. And now I can, again, I can tag this as critical. I can add Jason or me to it. I can add both of us. I can add and assign a date and a time to it and say, you know what, we need to do this on October 29th. And I can change the color. I can make this, you know, really important, not important, all that kind of stuff. You can add images in here as well. So there's a lot that you can do and get into more detail. This may be a way that you prefer to work. And so that's why I'm including that. But they're kind of embedded in these types of things, the user story maps or the Kanbans. And the Kanban, if you're familiar with lean process, that's where that comes from. But this would be a really good example of like things that need to be done, things that are in progress, and things that have been completed. And it's a very good project management tool, but maybe as we develop out some concepts, you may get to a stage where you're like, okay, what we have time for now is assigning tasks and actually executing on this. So that is the main stuff that I wanted to cover here. Let me just go through my notes and make sure. But yeah, so I think we've kind of covered everything I wanted to go through. And if I missed something, I'll put it in the notes here. But in general, thanks so much for coming and looking at this video. I think that you guys will be able to participate a little more. You may have to watch this or skip through the parts you may already know or don't know. And obviously go back and review it, get into Miro and practice a little bit. I'm going to give you some pre-work ahead of time. I typically am offering some sort of pre-work so that we can get familiar with the tool ahead of time. But this is part of it, is watching this video. So hopefully you got enough out of this. Good luck and see you soon. Take care.